Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings. We air this program every Wednesday at 1 p.m., and we broadcast from Rajamacon University of Technology, Peranakan. I will be bringing this program to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce a song to you. We will also talk a little bit about the artist that performs the song. We'll talk about the artist a little bit first. Then we'll discuss the main themes of the song, like what the song is all about. Then we will go ahead and listen to the song. And for the second half of our program, we will analyze the lyrics. The lyrics are the words to the song. And we will take a look at anything that might be especially difficult to understand. Since this is an English language program here in Thailand, we will look at any difficult vocabulary, slang, or sayings. Anything that's hard to understand. Then we'll get to the news and the latest updates from the university, as always.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Gray, and I am your host for the Musical Musings program. I am an American English teacher here at Rajamacon University of Technology, Peranakan. I have been teaching here for about 8 years. I usually give you that background information in most of my episodes. A lot of times I say 7 years. It's actually been closer to 8 now. In fact, we just finished our semester as of the time where we're recording this program. So this is my 8th year here that we are finishing up. So I have been here at the university. Oh, it's getting close to a decade now. I've been here a while. Okay, and I'm an English teacher, and I like to put music into my teaching sometimes, whenever I think it can help. All right, so that's why I am bringing you this musical program. And for today's episode, we are going to be doing the song Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Okay. All right, so your host here today had a little bit of trouble with his computer and collecting all the background information I usually like to get from my program. So we're going to keep it fairly simple on the information we have about the band and the song. I am familiar with the band. I usually do bands that I know. So I know this band. I had one of their albums growing up, one of their more popular ones. I wasn't a big fan. If you go ahead and listen to some of their other music, which I always recommend at the end of the program, you'll find that a lot of their songs sound pretty similar. Probably not the most creative band in the world. They have a lot of the same sound. A lot of bands are kind of like that. You know, they have a certain sound that they have. One of the bands we did several weeks ago was Evanescence. Yeah, the lead singer there, she has quite a voice. You hear a song by them, even if you didn't know it was by them, you might figure it out really quickly. So it's okay for a band to have a sound, because I'm not complaining about that. I love her voice. I think her name is Amy Lee. I forget. I'm not a big Evanescence fan, but I do like some of their more popular songs. I think they're really great, and I think she has a tremendous voice. But because I'm not a big fan, I do sometimes forget her name. I think it's Amy Lee is the lead singer of Evanescence. So it's not bad for a band to have a sound. But some of these songs by George Thorogood and the Destroyers are just a little bit too similar. They just sound a little too much like one another. For example, we're doing Bad to the Bone today. They have another song called One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer. You don't even need to be told that it's by them. If you've heard Bad to the Bone, as soon as you hear one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer, you're going to know that's George Thorogood and the Destroyers. So they weren't one of my favorite bands, but I will say they are creative enough. I do play guitar and sing, but I'm not a good enough musician to know some of the details of some of the crazy things they do. But I know that he does some weird things with the way he tunes his guitar, and I have heard about other musicians doing this as well. So I'm certainly not saying they're not creative. They're maybe just not one of the more creative bands out there. And so some of their songs are actually quite good. This song is quite good that we're going to do today. It's a fun song. It has no really important meaning. I will explain to you when we get to the song what Bad to the Bone means. It has no important meaning, really. It's just a fun song. Okay, so a little bit that I do have for you here about George Thorogood is that he was born in 1950. He is an American artist. He was born in Wilmington, Delaware. Delaware is a tiny state. You may not know where that is, but it's not far from Washington, D.C., near the capital. It doesn't touch Washington, D.C., because Maryland is kind of around. The state of Maryland is around D.C., and then Delaware is to the east of that. But it's not too far away, because Maryland is not a very big state either. So Delaware is pretty close to Washington, D.C. In fact, our previous president, Joe Biden, is from Delaware. So that's where George Thorogood is from. And again, he was born in 1950. And when he started with his band, it was just called The Destroyers. They changed it to George Thorogood and the Destroyers. I had trouble getting some background information just because of computer issues I had today. So I'm not sure exactly when they changed their name, why they changed their name. Sometimes these bands just change their name. They do that because they want to put more focus on the lead singer. Sometimes the lead singer is the problem. Sometimes they demand it. But it does happen with some other bands. I have seen that happen where it's the lead singer and the band name. I can give you another example. A band we have done on this program before. It's a very unique band because it's not well known. I usually do well known bands, but it's just one I really happen to like. And the name of the band is Mofro. It's a funny name because it almost sounds like a shortening of a bad word in English. But it is not, because it has an extra letter in it. So it does not mean that. But whenever you say the band name to someone that's not familiar with them, especially a native English-speaking person, they'll recognize that shortened version of that bad word, and it makes them laugh. It's kind of a funny name. But that's how they started, was as Mofro. They are now why can't I think of his first name? I don't think it's John, but for some reason that's what I'm thinking of. It's something Gray, kind of like my last name. It's Gray, but he spells it differently. I know it's not John. Why I don't know why I can't think of his name. Oh, it's JJ. JJ. So maybe it is John. I don't know what the J stands for, but it's JJ. JJ Gray and Mofro. That's the name they go by now. So that's what these guys did. They started out as the Destroyers. They became George Thorogood and the Destroyers. And again, I don't have all my notes on here, so I don't know when they started or if they're even still around. Again, they weren't, I think because of their lack of creativity, they never got that popular. They were quite popular. If you liked music and you were around in the 1980s, you know this group. So they were quite popular, just not at the level of some of the other bands we've talked about. I told you for these next few weeks we're going to do kind of like one-hit wonders. That's a band with one popular song. These guys aren't one-hit wonders. They don't really fit that. They had several. Again, most people from the 1980s know who they are. But they did really only have a few, like really big hits. Okay, and we're doing one of them today. We're doing Bad to the Bone. Now, this came out in 1982. It was on their fifth album. Very interesting song because of its popularity. And what I mean by that is it's very much a cult classic. What does that mean? Okay, we usually use that term with movies. So a cult classic would be a movie that became popular after, like well after its release. Like maybe because of advertising or something like that. It just wasn't very popular when it first came out. I can think of a perfect movie from when I was younger and when I was growing up. The movie Princess Bride. I believe it came out around, I want to say around 1988. Could have been a year earlier, a year later. It was around that time, the late 80s. It's a very famous director and a lot of very famous cast members. But most of those famous cast members became famous after that. Most of the famous movies from that director came out after that. He was already famous as an actor before this movie, but most of his famous movies came out after that. Not all of them. He had a couple of pretty big movies before then. And again, not all of them in terms of all of the cast. There were a couple of cast members that were already very well known, had big hits before then. But like the really core characters, like the two main characters in the storyline, yeah, they didn't have very many big parts prior to that. However, they had some fairly big parts after that and became more well-known actors. They're still not like top-of-the-line actors that everyone knows, but people that like movies know them. And these were like the two top actors in the movie. And they became famous later, as far as more famous. And so then people started noticing, look at all the famous people in this movie. How come I never saw it? And then they go back and watch it, and it's actually a very good movie too. So they love it, then it spreads by word of mouth, and so now people even today are still watching it. One of the things I like to watch on YouTube, just to pass my time because it's fun to do, is watch people reacting to either music or movies. To this day, there's still a lot of people out there online reacting to The Princess Bride. Again, that's a movie that came out in the 1980s, 35 years ago. People are still finding it, loving it. That's what I mean by a cult classic. It was not all that popular when it first came out. Didn't do badly. It's okay. It's okay. I remember I went to see it in the theaters. There were quite a few people in the theater. But it wasn't that popular at the time. It got popular later, as more and more people, just kind of word of mouth. And, people looking for a movie to watch on, like, streaming once that became available 15, 20 years later. Things like that. You go online. They have old movies that you can stream, right? So you go online, you're looking up, just randomly looking up movies. Some people might be looking up a movie because they like this certain actor or something. All of a sudden, this actor comes up who's quite famous now. Like I said, wasn't that famous at the time. Quite famous now. Oh, look. That's one of my favorite actors. I haven't seen that movie. They watch the movie. They love it. That's what a cult classic is. Movies that have kind of become more famous over time. Maybe one of the biggest examples is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is also really funny. And once again, that's not exactly the same idea. That's gotten popular for other reasons as well. But similar idea. Like the main character there is played by the actor Tim Curry, who became very famous for other stuff after that. And also, I believe it's... who's the female actor? I believe it's Susan Sarandon, which is interesting because it's her ex-husband who was also in The Princess Bride. So interesting connection there between those two movies. I believe it's Susan Sarandon, also one of her earlier parts. So again, not very famous at the time. And then someone wants to watch a Tim Curry film, they look it up. Never heard of that. And they'll go watch that movie. And it's really funny, so they end up liking it. That's what we're talking about. And that's exactly the case with Bad to the Bone. It got to number 27 on the chart, but that was on what's called the mainstream chart. Remember, I've explained to you in past episodes how we have the big chart, which is called the Billboard Top 100. Billboard's just the name of the company that would keep track of how often songs are being played and what the most popular songs are. They were the ones that kept track of it. Just a company that does music stuff. They used to actually sell albums as well. And I believe they had a magazine. In fact, I'm sure they did. So Billboard, they may even still have it. I don't know, because I think they're still rating songs, so they might still have their magazine. But a lot of magazines have gone away though now, and stuff is done online. So they have their main kind of list, and then they have these little sub-lists. And the Billboard mainstream has the word main in it, but that's not their main list. That's just kind of like normal. That's what mainstream means, normal music that people are listening to. And it did get to number 27 there. But the big list that everyone wants to be on is the top 100. This song, pretty amazingly, never got there. And the reason I say amazingly is because it's like one of these cult classics. Everyone who likes rock and roll music knows this song. Everyone. Now, sure, if you don't like rock and roll music, maybe you're more into pop music or you're more into rap or something like that, you may not know it. But everyone that's into rock music knows this song. And just about everyone likes this song. The only reason some people may not is if they've heard that other song that I said sounds so similar, one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. If they heard that first, they like that song, they might listen to this and think, yeah, it's the same sound all over again. But most people like this song. So it's a really so this song is very interesting in its popularity. Like I said, it's one of those cult classics. We usually talk about that with movies, but it does happen with songs. We did just a couple of weeks ago, we did Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum. That's kind of the same. I have to say kind of, because it did get much higher in the charts originally. So it was quite popular when it first came out. But the way it has kind of survived, and it's been used in several movies and things like that. So it's kind of a cult classic as well. Not sure it quite fits that exact definition because it was so popular originally. This song definitely fits that definition. Never even made it to the top 100. Yet, years later, everyone that likes this style of music, they all know this song. Everyone knows this song. Again, everyone that likes this type of music. If you're not into this type of music, you may not know it. But everyone that likes this type of music knows this song. Also interesting, came out on its fifth album. Remember, we've talked a lot about how a lot of these bands have some of their most popular songs on like their first album. This band, since I said they're not the most creative band in the world, you'd really expect their most popular music to come out early in their career. In this case, no. Fifth album, 1982. All right, enough talking. Let's get to this song. As always, for those of you joining via YouTube and actually watching this, we cannot put the video. So please click on the link in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to the video for this song, and then you can just click back here for the second half of our program. Everyone else, you're just listening. And this is radio, so we can put the music in there. So you should be able to listen just fine. All right, let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
All right, welcome back. So that was Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Now, in the first half of the program, I did kind of a lot of explaining about the popularity of the song, and I never really spoke about the main theme of the song. I did tell you, though, before that, it's really simple. And it is. It's kind of just about being a tough guy or a really kind of popular guy, or maybe a combination of both. It kind of depends what he means. And I would say from the lyrics, he might mean more popular than tough. But I think he means both. Here's what I mean. The name of the song, Bad to the Bone. That is a saying we have in English. When we say someone is bad to the bone, it doesn't necessarily mean bad exactly the way you think about it. Bad is not good, right? That's the opposite. Bad is not good. Sometimes in English slang terms, we'll actually use words like the opposite of what they mean. So if someone is bad to the bone, it means all the way down to their core, down to their bones, all the way down. Everything about them is really cool. So to be bad to the bone is really cool. But it can also, but when you're saying someone's bad like that, there's a sense of it also meaning tough. So someone that's bad to the bone might be tough guy. And when you watch the video, you kind of see that he looks like he's trying to be kind of a tough guy. So it kind of means tough and popular, kind of at the same time. And again, in this song, a lot of it is about him with women. One of those type of songs. That's why I said there's not a lot of meaning really to the song. And so that would kind of mean more like popular. But you'll see with some of the lines could also mean tough. Like he talks about breaking hearts. He talks about kings and queens step out of his way. Like they're afraid of him. Obviously, we're exaggerating, but that's he's a tough guy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the lyrics. Now that you know what bad to the bone means, it means either really cool or really tough or a combination. And I would say probably a combination. The way he's using the words in the song. So we start out the song with the lyrics. Now on the day I was born, the nurses all gathered round, and they gazed in wide wonder at the joy they had found. The head nurse spoke up. She said, "Leave this one alone." She could tell right away that I was bad to the bone. All right, so let's go through that. The day I was born, so this is saying right away. The nurse knew he was bad to the bone, knew he was cool, tough. But it says the nurses all gathered around first. When you talk about gathering around, it means they're all like around the bed or wherever the baby is, the crib, whatever he's in. To gaze in wide wonder. Gazing, that word means to look at something, but when you're gazing at something, it's almost like you're staring at it. So to gaze in wonder and it means you're amazed, like, wow, look at this. He's bragging about himself quite a bit in this song. They gazed in wide wonder at the joy they had found. The head nurse, a head just means leader, so this is the top nurse. So she's the one in charge. So she's the one that spoke up and said, "Leave this one alone. Don't touch him. Because he's bad to the bone." All right. And then we get to the chorus. And the chorus is really just bad to the bone. But it's kind of fun because then he does this thing where he goes bad, and so it sounds funny. A lot of people think it sounds pretty cool when he does that. There's another band we've done that has kind of that stutter effect in their chorus. And I don't know, when you put that with music, I don't know. For some reason, it does sound kind of cool. So a lot of people like that. But that's really all the chorus is. It's just bad to the bone, bad to the bone, bad to the bone, bad. That's it. So we get to verse 2. We're going to focus on the verses because, like I said, the chorus is simple, and we do have 4 verses to get through. So let's keep moving here. Verse 2, I broke 1,000 hearts before I met you. I'll break 1,000 more, baby, before I am through. So again, it's talking about all the women he's been with. That's what that means. I think probably most of you know the slang about breaking someone's heart. It means, someone loves you, you break up with them. They have a broken heart. They're sad. So he's broken 1,000 hearts. So he's been with 1,000 women. And he's basically telling this woman that he's going to break up with her too, because he says, I'll break 1,000 more, baby, before I am through. What's funny is kind of the next line here. Because he does say, I want to be yours, pretty baby, yours and yours alone. I'm here to tell you, honey, that I'm bad to the bone. So he's saying he wants to be with her, but he knows how he is. So I'm here to tell you, honey, I'm bad to the bone. So I want to be yours and yours alone. But it's not really who I am, so that's probably not going to happen. So it's kind of a funny verse there, because he's with someone, and he's being honest. He's warning her, I broke 1,000 hearts before I met you, and I'll break 1,000 more before I'm through. Okay? I told you, very simple song. Very simple song. No big, deep meaning. And we get the chorus. Verse 3. I make a rich woman beg, and I make a good woman steal. I make an old woman blush, and I make a young girl squeal. And then he repeats the second half of verse 2. I want to be yours, pretty baby, yours and yours alone. I'm here to tell you, honey, that I'm bad to the bone. So we just need to focus on the first part of this verse. So what he's basically saying is that he's so cool and so macho and so tough guy that basically women will do anything. Anything he wants. I told you he's bragging a lot in this song. He's bragging a lot about himself. So a rich woman. So it says, I'm making a rich woman beg. Obviously, a rich woman doesn't need to beg. She's begging to be with him, in other words. I make a good woman steal. So she's good. She doesn't steal. I make an old woman blush. I don't know. That line to me is a little weird. I would think an old woman could blush, but maybe an old woman, they're not as into the guys anymore. Some of them still are, but a lot of them are not anymore. So maybe that's what he's saying. He can even make an old woman fall in love with him. And I make a young girl squeal. Okay. To squeal means like to scream, and it's this really high-pitched scream. That one, I don't think that one's too weird if you think about, especially older times. Well, even now, I think the girls do that sometimes when they watch like a K-pop band that's really popular, and they're watching live, and the band comes out, and all the girls yell. That still probably happens. But you still do need to be pretty cool and tough in order for them to react like that. All right, we get to our chorus, and then we get to verse 4. Now, when I walk the streets, kings and queens step aside. So again, this is a little bit more about being tough than being cool. Because the kings and queens step aside. And obviously, we're exaggerating. Who is walking past kings and queens on the road? Especially in America. Remember, this is an American singer. We don't have kings and queens. So, just writing a song. Again, the song has no big, important meaning. All right, so now when I walk the streets, kings and queens step aside. Every woman I meet, they all stay satisfied. Okay. That term is meant to refer to sex. When you say you're keeping your woman satisfied, it's a way of talking about sex without mentioning sex. We can't, bad word, we can't say that word. That's what he means. That's what he means, that in the bed. To keep someone satisfied means they're happy. So, yeah, he can do it well. That's what, again, bragging. This whole song is him bragging. It's really a pretty funny song, just because it's so... It's just stupid. It's a stupid song in that regard. Now, I should say that in American English, the way we use the word stupid is not the same way as a lot of Thai people interpret it. So I try not to use that word too much. But since this is an English language program, I'm going to use that word the way we use it. When we say something is stupid, a lot of times what we mean is it's funny. It's just funny in a silly way. The word stupid, I know, when Thai people hear that word, that English word, it has much more bad meaning to it. It's a very negative word. For native English speakers, it can be used that way, so you're not wrong in your interpretation. You have to pay attention to like someone's facial expression and how you're using it. You notice I was laughing when I said the song is stupid. I mean, it's silly. It's a silly song, no meaning, no point. The guy is just bragging throughout the whole song about being bad to the bone. It's just a funny song. That's what I mean. If someone looks at you very angrily and says, "Oh, you're so stupid," that would be the bad interpretation that I think most Thai speakers put to that word. So just know that not every native English speaker uses that word the same way you think that word is supposed to be used. We also use it to mean silly, and it's kind of meant in a good way, even though it's a bad word, a negative word. Whenever I call, like there are some movies that I would say are stupid, and what I mean, usually, not all the time, I've seen some bad, stupid movies, but what I usually mean is something good. I usually mean they're silly, they're funny, but their sense of humor is just odd, different, silly. That's how we use the word that word sometimes. Okay, and that's what this song is. It's silly. Okay, so when I walk the streets, kings and queens step aside. Every woman I meet, they all stay satisfied. I want to tell you, pretty baby, when I see I make my own, and I'm here to tell you, honey, that I'm bad to the bone. Okay, I think I said when I see I make my own. The line is what I see I make my own. So that's the only line here that might be a little confusing. Okay, so what he's saying is if he sees something, he wants it, he's going to make it his. And given all the rest of the song here, he's probably talking about women. So when he sees a woman he wants, he's going to get her. Oy. Yes, again. Don't take the song too seriously. The whole song, beginning to end, is just silly. All right, so that's what he means in that line. What I see, I make my own. Now, he could mean other stuff. He sees a nice car, he wants it. Because, he's also, if you were to take him seriously, which I don't think you're supposed to, he's also a famous singer. He can probably buy any car he wants to buy. Like I said, they were pretty popular. Not as popular as some of the bands we talk about, but just to buy a car, yeah. He could probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a car. He could buy a Lamborghini probably. So maybe he means stuff as well. I don't think so. Because he's telling the woman again. He says, I want to tell you, pretty baby, what I see, I make my own. And I'm here to tell you, honey, that I'm bad to the bone. It's almost embarrassing doing this song. I didn't realize how bad this song was, bad to the bone, until I was going through the lyrics for our program. All right, so that's really the end of the song. We get the chorus one more time, and that's it. All right, so George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Sometimes I just call him George Thorogood. We do that sometimes with bands that have a name like that, where it's the singer and someone else. But really it is George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Other songs by him that you may want to listen to. I Drink Alone. Again, that one sounds similar as well. So many of his songs sound similar. One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer is another song I mentioned. That's one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. You can see he likes drinking as well. I Drink Alone. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. 2 songs about drinking. And then another one is Moving On Over. That does have a little bit different sound to it. I honestly don't think it's as good as some of the other ones, but it's still one of his more popular songs. you may want to check that one out since it sounds a little different. That's Move It On Over. All right, there are a lot of other songs by him as well. There were a couple I was going to list, but I left them off. I didn't think they were quite as strong as these. So go ahead and listen to those songs by him. If you like this one, go ahead and check out some of his other songs. All right, thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please stay with us and make sure you tune back in next week for another great song. Also, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical